Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this wonderful day. It just previously occurred to me that the previous two videos which I made about how to get through to Jehovah's Witnesses didn't quite do it in a chronological order, because we never kind of get to the bottom of it. How does one become a Jehovah's Witness in the first place? And why do they believe the things that they believe, and why do they reason the way they do? And this is all to do with indoctrination. And this starts very, very early on. From the very first meeting they attend, the weekend meetings usually, which is the Watchtower study meeting. That's when they're each weekend, they study a different topic. And for the study material, as they're going through it paragraph by paragraph, they have questions. So what they have to do is basically answer only the questions, only the answers that the paragraph highlights as the valuable answer. So anything apart from that, it's a wrong answer. So they come to that until, they're putting hands up. Everybody put their hands up, and the Watchtower study conductor is called on the name, Sister Smith, or so on and so forth. And then Sister Smith, of course, she's parroting back the exact answer what the Watchtower recommends, and it says on the paragraph. So we have that all underlined, and when they call on us, get the microphone, and we just basically read up the answer what we had on the paragraph. Also, once you start going to the meetings, once one starts going to the meetings, very early on, they're trying to get them into Bible study, which is basically Watchtower study, not truly a Bible study. Because what they're starting to study is the little yellow book, the truth book, which what does the Bible really teach? That's its title. And this book really is where true indoctrination begins, hardcore. And I remember the very, very first lessons, and one of the very few first paragraphs, it already mentions that when you start studying the Bible, the wonderful Bible truths, you can expect opposition, and your faith will be put to the test pretty early on. So with that in mind, when my mom, or when my wife, above everyone else, they started to express their discontent, perhaps, and they're trying to warn me that Jehovah's Witnesses is a cult, and they do strange things, and they don't do birthdays and Christmases, and I think she maybe even mentioned the refusal of the blood, things like this. So when the paragraph basically it reminds and also introduces that once you start studying with Jehovah's Witnesses the truth, then you can expect opposition. Perhaps this is from people, because the paragraph actually states, I remember, that this opposition will come perhaps from friends and family members who are very well-meaning, but they don't understand the wonderful Bible truths, or from people who actually opposing God. So sure enough, when this opposition started to occur, I interpreted as that, well, the Watchtower must be right, because they're told me that this will happen. So that's basically reinforced the authenticity, in quotes, of the Watchtower writers, and enhanced what they're saying that is true. So with this in mind, it became evident to me that, wow, they told me that this would happen, so these guys know something. They must be the truth. In fact, I remember I just trying to be very quick with this, but slowly, as I was doing my studies, and I wasn't too far from being baptized myself, I was already studying about 2 years, so I was quite deep in. and small changes started to happen in me. It's like, for example, silly little things. When my wife, she would sneeze, I would say, "Bless you." And of course, Jehovah's Witnesses, we don't say that. Of course, stopping all kinds of small things, for example, Christmases or Easters or Valentine's Day, which we never did anyway, but these were faded out, slowly faded out, which we never really kind of celebrated as such ourselves, between ourselves. But it was something that kind of shocked her and kind of made her kind of angry. But the worst thing I remember is when we were talking about if I would have a motorbike accident, because I'm driving around on a bike, I don't have a car. So if I would have an accident, for example, and I need blood transfusions, as Jehovah's Witness we need to refuse, because we have to have this little blood card that actually lets the ambulance services know, or whoever finds you, that you're refusing blood transfusions on the basis of your religious beliefs. Or you can accept certain kind of treatments or parts of blood or so on and so forth. Anyway, and I remember she was saying that if you would have an accident and you need a blood transfusion, but I would give you my blood to keep you alive and you would refuse it. Excuse me. So, and that's kind of cut to me to the heart. But the worst thing for us personally, was when she actually, the only thing that she still observed was her birthday, because her mom has died, my wife's mom, and her birthday was basically, whenever they celebrated, my wife never celebrated it for herself, but she celebrated it for her own mom, giving birth to her. So it was her day, really. And as a memorial for her mom, for giving birth to her and raised her and loving her, that was for her, for my wife, her birthday. That's what it symbolized. So when I refused to celebrate her birthday, it was something that it caused a major friction in our marriage. And we had a lot of screaming matches about that. Well, I didn't, because I was very passive as a Jehovah's Witness. I just brought the good old Jehovah's Witness reasoning. Why is the birthdays are wrong, which is the Watchtower state that, well, that kind of a mentality has been built up into us that says that so celebrating oneself is a trait of the devil. Pride and self-exaltation, celebrating oneself, it's wrong. So therefore, and also in the Bible there are examples when there was a birthday of someone, there's 2 executions happen. So basically they pull the two together in a way that totally unrelatable, but never mind. Let me get to the point finally. After the indoctrination is truly starting, you see more and more, after meeting, Bible study after Bible study, you will starting to see that you're starting to develop the organizational mindset, which is basically exalts the organization above everybody and anything. So when a Jehovah's Witness turns up at your door, you will see, well, these witnesses are basically convinced the following points, which could be summed up into 6 points. So the underlying idea that governs a Jehovah's Witness life is basically Jehovah God works through the one and only one organization, and this is the Watchtower. The devotion to that concept makes one a Jehovah's Witness. And this concept and this organizational mindset basically dominates every part of their lives, hearts, mentality, everything. So when you have a Jehovah's Witness turn up to your door, they're already convinced of these following few points, which can be summed up in 6 short points, that the Watchtower is God's only channel of communication to mankind today. And the faithful and discreet slave, which is basically the governing body, they're the only one who can accurately interpret Bible truth. Their religion is the truth, and they are the only path to salvation. So therefore, everything outside of that, every other religious organization and belief system is false and it's satanic, including yours. Life is basically a loyalty and an endurance test, because they have to prove their loyalty to Jehovah and to his organization until the very end. And the servants of Jehovah can be and will be prosecuted as the end times drawing near. So these truths have been impressed on them all their lives. For those who are actually born into the religion, that's all they know. And those who have been converted, slowly, study by study, meeting after meeting, they're convinced of these such-called truths. Also, the Watchtower claims that they're the only ones who adhere to Bible standards and Bible truths, and they're the only ones basically fulfill Bible requirements. And this can be summed up in, like, for example, they're exalting Jehovah as the only true God, Christ Jesus as the only one who vindicates the sovereignty of Jehovah as Messianic King. They adhere closely to God's inspired word, and their moral standards are very, very highly regarded. They also keep separate from the world. They are devoting all their principal efforts to the preaching of the kingdom, as Jesus did. And also their members are displaying the fruitage of the Spirit, which is basically sets them apart from the rest of the world. So points like this have been repeated over and over, meeting after meeting, and the witnesses are surrounded by people who are constantly basically reinforcing each other's faith in these doctrines. So that's basically all they know. In addition, the Watchtower Overseas is basically exhorting the witnesses that they must prove their loyalty to Jehovah and to his organization in the face of opposition and challenges and prosecutions. They have to remain faithful, just as Jesus did, or they would fail the test, as Adam has, and they would perish forever. So this Watchtower Worldview is basically keeps a Jehovah's Witness striving for perfection or to prove worthy, and it also keeps them in a fear of a constant uncertainty regarding their standing and regarding their salvation with God. And once a person has accepted the claim that the Watchtower is Jehovah's only organization, then it follows that their teachings must be the only truth, and therefore everybody else and everything else is false and it's satanic. Also, the Watchtower like to contrast itself with the rest of Christianity, they call it Christendom, by enforcing points to the students such as only Jehovah's organization, only the Watchtower is the one that restored the name of Jehovah in the Bible, and Christendom has actually removed it completely. The Trinity doctrine is basically pagan. The immortality of the human soul is pagan, it's also coming from Babylon. No churches today basically doing the only assignment that Jesus left us to do, which is basically to teach the kingdom of God, the good news. And also the churches of Christendom are involving themselves in the political issues of the world. So if we are to be effective sharing the gospel with them, we need to understand the implications of these teachings. So in order to get through to Jehovah's Witnesses, we need to plant seeds that will lead them to question their reliance on the organization. However, we must be careful not to be antagonistic or not to trigger their prosecution complex, which is installed in them very early on. Also, we mustn't try to be teaching anything to a Jehovah's Witness, because they're the ones must be occupying the teacher's role. Why? Because they think that they have the only truth and we are in spiritual darkness, so we have absolutely no qualifications whatsoever to teach them anything in the first place, and whatever we believe is false, and we are deceived by Satan. So they're the ones who have to bring the truth to us. So whenever a witness is coming to your door, he has or they have this mindset that they're bringing the light to your door, they're bringing the truth. So instead of us trying to teach them something directly, we must take the role of a inquisitive student. So rather than us giving declarations of what truth and what is not, or what is right and what is wrong, we can make the same point basically by asking a lot of questions, because this way they won't reject us as somebody who's trying to teach them anything, but we are the inquisitive students. And asking questions is usually always more effective than making statements. Also, it's perfectly acceptable to ask questions regarding Watchtower doctrines, but always in a respectful manner, because if you're trying to attack the organization, they attack the leadership of Jehovah's Witnesses or the doctrines in such way that that will come across as hostile, for example, then they will draw back into themselves like a snail, and they will probably break all contacts off with you. And even if they agree to continue study with you, this poisonous atmosphere will always remain there. So try to make sure that we never come across as disrespectful to them or to their leadership or to their doctrines, because it's perfectly normal to question it in a rightful manner, but not in a hostile way, if you know what I mean. And also because the witnesses are expected to be prosecuted, make sure that everything that you ask and expressions of disagreements over various doctrines are by no means attack on you, and we must express that we love them as Jesus loved them, because this is why he came, and Jesus loves them as he loves everyone else, and he died for them personally. Also, it's quite useless, for example, to trying to invite them to your church because they think it's satanic, so they won't be attending a church with you. And it's also critical that we make sure that they understand that we don't think that our church or our denomination is the only true Christian organization, but instead we must impress the importance of salvation is coming through a personal relationship with Jesus and not through affiliation with a religious organization. Also, offering them literature, it's quite useless, because pretty much they're just going to throw it away as soon as you're out of sight. And also, if you want to show them anything that an ex-Jehovah's Witness wrote or something, they won't look at it, because it's an apostate material, and then they have to avoid it like a plague. So instead, you can introduce this. If you want to show them something from an ex-Jehovah's Witness, we could say that I've read something from an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and that quite worries me, and I thought is just fair to know what is the truth about this. So you can offer them to have a look if they want to or not. So basically ask them what their take is on that. Also, is inevitable that sometimes we're going to come to the point where the Jehovah's Witnesses won't be able to answer your questions adequately, and they become frustrated. And they could become verbally abusive. I've experienced that myself many times. So when this happens, just expect that, but love them anyway. So we must have the attitude as Jesus did, that when they threw insults at him, he didn't retaliate, and when they were making threats against him, he didn't threaten back. So just love them anyway. And just remember that Jesus himself extended love and grace towards the people who branded him a false Messiah. So if witnesses to come to a saving faith in Jesus Christ, their organizational mindset and their reliance on the organization must overcome. And because of the trust that the Jehovah's Witnesses place in their organization and the Watchtower, we almost like kind of have to walk on eggshells not to trigger the prosecution complex, because that would make them dig their heels in and drive them even deeper into the Watchtower. So basically, getting through to the witnesses is not necessarily a science, or how many scriptures you know, or how clever are you. It's more of an art, is to see when to press a point perhaps and when to back off. And in the same time, we have to maintain our own spiritual strength, because their doctrines and their teachings can come across as very convincing. So you be on your guard. Anyway, I hope I didn't go on for too long. This is basically the chronological order which I was supposed to present, to how to get through to the witnesses with certain methods and approaches. But remember, Jehovah's Witnesses are people just like you and me. They have hopes, they have expectations, they got dreams, they got passions, and they're convinced that they have the truth and you are in darkness. So they do have this true and honest desire in them to share the truth with you, but also they are very, very indoctrinated and very much misled. So having this in mind, just be patient, be loving, always extend grace, love, and patience, most importantly, towards them, even if it gets very tricky. Hope this message blessed you. I hope you found that useful in some level, and I'll be back soon. God bless you all, love you all, and we'll speak soon. Bye.